that the nations that burned a lot of carbon in the past, the most carbon, United States, European Union, need to pay for the rapid decarbonization and development of the countries that have not burned much carbon, but are in desperate need of development just simply for the health and welfare of their people. India is right at the sharp end of the stick on that. The space is not the place where international cooperation is required. And indeed, the different measurements that different programs use for simple things like docking ports mean that actually international cooperation at the International Space Station has been quite difficult. It's been good. It's been a way that the United States and Russia have cooperated intensively and well. So it's not a bad space, but it's so minor compared to the Paris Agreement, compared to the nation states coming together to cooperate on decarbonizing our technological infrastructure as fast as possible. That's the great challenge of our time, and it needs international cooperation. China is big on that. United States, India, European Union, a few more countries, essentially the G20, represent most of the carbon burn on the planet. And India is particularly important because it has 1 billion people, it has a huge landmass, it has a lot of solar power, it has a lot of potential. It's the world's biggest democracy. So India is a crucial player in this international effort.
The argument which is raised by India is that our development cannot actually come at the cost of pollution and and emitting carbon. And there's a reason for that. I mean, if you look at America, which remains the first or the second largest polluter in the world even now, America's economic growth and that of Europe has been dictated by their carbon emissions. Now, India is told, now look, yes, we know you're developing, but you need to stop that because it's all one gas and it's all one planet. Now, that's difficult in a country where power is so important and we don't have enough power generation. We've invested heavily in thermal power. It remains a fairly poor country. So how do you balance this? The need to grow and keep people alive and give them jobs, and the fact that, the long run picture is terrible.
Yes, a very important question. And I must say, electricity is a health requirement. So this is not a trivial issue. This is a basic human right, the right to electricity. And historically, in the post-colonial period, one can see that historically that India has suffered from the depredations of Europe and in the global economy of the United States. So one of the great things about the Paris Agreement is that climate equity is written into it, that the nations that burned a lot of carbon in the past, the most carbon, United States, European Union, need to pay for the rapid decarbonization and development of the countries that have not burned much carbon, but are in desperate need of development just simply for the health and welfare of their people. India is right at the sharp end of the stick on that. Luckily, the ability to rapidly deploy solar and wind and wave power to create electricity cleanly, and indeed, really, nuclear should not be taken off the table of discussion because there's becoming a kind of a clean nuclear developments in the technology of nuclear power. Anything that doesn't burn carbon is better than anything that burns carbon. So all these should be on the table. And luckily, India has an awful lot of sunlight, an awful lot of labor. What it needs is capital. And that's an interesting situation because most of the capital in this world is sequestered and has been accumulated by the United States and Europe. They need to spread that out. And this is part of what the Paris Agreement has insisted on. And hopefully that will increase at Glasgow and in future meetings. I mean, I speak as an American that this is an absolute necessity that America spread the wealth that it accumulated over the last century of carbon burn to get the whole world to a clean economy, to a decarbonized technological base as fast as possible.
Crystal gaze into the near future with our series Be Inspired that takes you into the world of AI, medicine, space, good governance, economy, and so much more. Subscribe to our channel now.